Let's get cooking with Care Team Plus, where flavor meets health. I'm Chef Karla, and today we are going to be making all the recipes that bring your spring bounty to life. We're going to start with a Greek pulled pork that you can either make in your slow cooker or an Instapot. We're also going to make a Greek salsa with cucumbers, tomatoes, and lemons that pairs perfectly with that Greek pulled pork. And then we're going to finish with a nice sweet treat. We're going to finish with strawberry crumble bars. Strawberries are so good this time of year, so we couldn't skip the opportunity to bring those to life as well. So to get started, we're going to start with our Greek pulled pork. So I'm using pork tenderloin in this recipe. Pork tenderloin is awesome because it's a lean protein that's high in protein. It's when you purchase it, you actually get that one package, and 2 pork tenderloins come in that one package. So the recipe today is going to call for about 2 pounds of pork, and just one package is going to do the job. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and clean this pork tenderloin. So when I say clean, we don't want to rinse it. We don't need to wash it. What we're doing is actually removing just this extra little bit of fat here, these little bit of tendons. So I'm just using a bony knife and threading it underneath and just getting rid of any of the larger chunks. It doesn't have to be perfectly done, just enough to remove any of this excess, because it'll kind of just affect the end product. Kind of, if you bit into it once it was cooked, it might just be a little oddly chewy, or these white tendons, the silver tendon, that's actually going to kind of be not as tender as we'd like it to be. So that's why we're removing it. There we go. And so it's not perfect. Like, there's still some bits on here, and that's perfect enough. So then I'm going to cut it into about 1-inch chunks. This recipe also is really great if you just did chicken thighs or chicken breast instead of pork tenderloin. It's really just such a versatile recipe, which is another reason why I love it.
Go ahead and remove this.
Pork to the side. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my cutting board and wash my hands, and we'll move forward. Now that my cutting board is all clean, we're going to go ahead and start chopping up our vegetables. I'll move my pork tenderloin to the side until we're ready to jump into that. So this Greek pulled pork is really so simple. We're going to either pop it in our Instapot or in our slow cooker, whatever you have, whatever is available to you, and whatever you have time for. And we're actually going to infuse some really great flavor using a little bit of vegetables, and then we have some really great spices. So what I'm going to do is start with our bell pepper. I'm going to cut the top and the bottom off, and I'm just going to dice this. So this this bell pepper is going to stay in the slow cooker, and it's also just going to kind of be intermingled into the shredded pork once it's done cooking. So what I want to do is just make sure I cut it small enough so that there's not huge chunks of of bell pepper in the pork tenderloin once we're done. So I'm going to just cut it into a small julienne, then realign it and dice it. And once the bell pepper cooks down, it does soften up and even kind of shrink a little bit. So these cuts don't have to be perfect, but I like to think about, the end product, and that's the size. That kind of determines the size that I want and how I want to chop it.
I'm using a red bell pepper today, but of course you can use any color: green, yellow, orange, whatever you have, whatever you like.
Great. I'll go ahead and trash this bit of bell pepper. And then I have some garlic here. I think the recipe calls for maybe 8 cloves of garlic. I think I've said this before, that whenever I write a recipe, or even if I read a recipe, I put X amount of garlic, and then I like double it from there. I just really love garlic. I think it has great flavor, but I know not everybody does. So I write the recipe to be respectful of anybody that's just is like, okay, like I like garlic, but I'm not in love with garlic. And then for those of you that are garlic lovers, double down if you'd like, especially since we're cooking the garlic. If we're using raw garlic, it's so much more powerful and spicy and flavorful. So in that case, I wouldn't like double it. But in this situation, we're cooking it. It tastes really good with having a little bit more garlic if you like garlic, so go for it. So I actually purchased pre-peeled garlic cloves. I just think it simplifies the cooking process. I would say the best way to purchase garlic, if I'm being totally honest with you, is the garlic bulbs, just from a nutrition perspective. But the time to peel it all for me just, I don't know, it sends me over the edge. So I just buy pre-peeled garlic cloves. The next option down is that minced garlic in the jar. I don't love that option from a nutrient perspective. There's some added preservatives in there that I don't love. And I also don't think the flavor is great. So that's kind of like my tiers of how I would recommend purchasing garlic. Best would be the bulb, next would be the pre-peeled, and then the lower bottom part would be the just pre-minced jarred garlic. So what we're going to do is go ahead and mince this garlic. So I put the garlic clove on the cutting board, leaving my knife on the cutting board, and then I'll use the palm of my hand to smash the garlic. And so what that does is just create an even surface area of this garlic, so that when I am mincing it and running my knife through it, it's not just jumping around my cutting board. And that just makes it a lot safer and also more efficient to cut this garlic. See what I mean? This is a good bit of garlic, huh? There we go. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and put all the smashed garlic into a nice tight little pile, and I'm going to run my knife through it. And so this is going to be the mincing method. So placing the palm of my hand on the tip of the knife and rocking the knife through the food as I'm consistently keeping this pile tight will give us a good, beautiful mince of this garlic. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the bowl with the bell peppers. Lastly, we're going to do our red onion. So you can use red onion or yellow onion, whatever you have, whatever you love. And I'm going to use, I need one whole onion. So I'll cut the top and the bottom off. For a second, I was wondering if I was using half or the whole. So we're using the whole thing. And same thing, this is all going in with that pork tenderloin. So I want to cut it small enough that there's not massive chunks of onion in my cooked pork tenderloin. So I'll run my knife through it and get up, I would just say a small dice. Awesome. I love these types of recipes where it's just really bulk protein prep. I like to make, so this recipe does make, it makes 12 servings of 4 ounces, which is a pretty good size recipe, right? So that is how I prefer to cook. My kind of philosophy is if you're in the kitchen, make it worthwhile. Like if you're going to have to clean dishes, you're taking the time and chopping all these things up, make it worth your while. So I like to make large batches of recipes while I'm cooking. And there's a few options that you can do once you've made these larger recipes. So it is going to make 12 servings. So what I like to do for our family, I know that this pork tenderloin is going to last in our refrigerator for up to 7 days in an airtight container in the refrigerator, right? So that gives a lot of flexibility throughout the week. So I'll just have this prepped for the week, and then throughout the week, my husband, myself, whoever's eating, we can just pop it in the microwave or heat it up in a saute pan, and we can really do whatever we want with it. Where you can make it today, for this class, I'm going to make it into a gyro. Kind of the end product is a gyro, but you could also just put it on a sandwich. You can make a quesadilla. You could put this pulled pork on top of a salad. So I really like the bulk protein option where you can kind of cross-utilize it in many different ways so you don't get tired of it. And then you're not in the kitchen every meal preparing something new. It just is a little bit more efficient, and it's also more cost effective. The other option that you could do if you're not really into having leftovers on repeat and you find that you get kind of bored with the same food, you could just take what you want for a few meals and leave that in your refrigerator for a few days, and then take the remaining pork tenderloin that's already cooked and put that in your freezer. It will last in your freezer in an airtight container for up to 6 months. So those are some really great options. So I do urge you to make these larger batch recipes. You're going to find that you spend less time in your kitchen, you're saving a little bit more money because you're not kind of wasting as much food, you're just making bulk items. And then if you can continue to cross-utilize your proteins, you're going to find that it makes just cooking a little bit easier, and it'll add good variety to your diet as well. Okay, so next what we have, so we have all of our pork is cut up, we have our vegetables cut up, I have onion all the way over here, and then we're just going to add some seasoning and get this pork going. So I am using an Instant Pot today. The Instant Pot has a slow cooker option, which is fantastic as well. I've just become a big fan of the Instant Pot because it has that feature where it's a pressurized cooking option or the slow cooker option. And today, for the video's sake, I am going to use a pressure cooker because it cooks it much faster. Let me check my notes to make sure I tell you guys correctly. If you're using the slow cooker, and you can refer to the recipes provided from this cooking demonstration if you're cooking this at home. But for the slow cooker option, you can cook it on low for 7 to 8 hours or on high for 5 to 6 hours. The Instant Pot option will cook for 40 minutes on high pressure. Crazy. All right, so we're gonna put everything in our Instant Pot. It has this big bowl that's removable, so I'm going to go ahead and pop everything in. So that's our garlic, bell pepper, and red onion, excuse me. And then our pork tenderloin will go in there. Beautiful. And then we're going to go ahead and add all of our seasonings. So I'm going to start with our fennel seed. We need about a teaspoon of fennel. I always joke like I'm carefully measuring these ingredients. And the thing is, you can definitely measure them, especially if you're new to cooking and you're not super comfortable. But what you'll find is, and once you make it once or twice, you'll feel more comfortable probably kind of just sprinkling things in. That is 2 tablespoons, I'll do a little bit more, of oregano, dried oregano. Then we have 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Also, if you don't have dried oregano, you could use dried basil instead. You could just use more Italian seasoning. A lot of those ingredients, dried thyme, they're all you can kind of switch those out. There's no need to buy a whole new thing of spice if you're not really going to use it, or an herb if you're not going to use the whole thing or very often. So feel free to get comfortable while you're cooking and mix and match spices so that you're not, your kitchen's not full of food that you're not using. Then we're using lemon pepper. So I'm going to do about a teaspoon of lemon pepper. Then we'll do about a teaspoon of salt. And then a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes, about a half a teaspoon. So the crushed red pepper flakes, they're not really adding heat. I like to say they're adding warmth. There's definitely a big difference. So when you're eating it, it shouldn't be so spicy hot. It should just be like that little bit of peppery background flavor. Okay, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in my Instant Pot. Pressure cook, and we'll go for 40 minutes. Beautiful. All right, so that pork tenderloin is looking good. Again, you can use the slow cooker or this Instant Pot option, and we're going to let it cook. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and put together our strawberry crumble bars. Let's start our strawberry crumble bars. These crumble bars are so good. We're bringing this strawberry bounty to life this spring. Strawberries or any produce that's in season is actually, you're going to find most likely on sale, and it's actually more nutrient dense. So if you see something that's on sale, it's usually if you see produce that's on sale, it's usually a great indicator that it's likely in season. And so that is going to tee off for you that it's a little bit more nutrient dense than say something that's not in season. because when it's in season, it's at its peak. It hasn't been stored for too long. It is sweet, delicious, and packed with nutrients. This recipe is also really great with blueberries. You could use blackberries. You can really just experiment with different fruit. Peaches would probably be good too, since we're in this low country. We love peaches here. And this recipe is actually $9 total to put together. So this makes it makes 16 servings, and it costs $9 for all 16 servings, which is a really great steal, because if you think about, if you were to buy any just bar at Starbucks or any coffee shop or a bakery, you're looking at like $4 each probably. And so $9 for a whole pan of 16 servings. Jackpot. Also, it does make a big recipe or a big batch. This recipe freezes really well. So once you bake your strawberry crumble bars all the way through, you can take what you want out to enjoy or share with your friends or your neighbors and your family. And then you can just go ahead and portion them up and pop them in your freezer for, again, up to 6 months. So until you're ready to enjoy a little bit more crumble bars. It's a great option, so you can enjoy making a larger batch. Okay, so what we're going to do is make our crust. This recipe is really cool because the crust and the crumble topping on top are the same. It's the same. So it just kind of makes the recipe a lot easier. So we're going to start with 1.5 cups of an almond flour. And so when I measure almond flour, I recommend packing the almond flour down into the measuring cup, just as you would brown sugar. So this is a 1/2 cup measuring scoop. So I need 3 of these. There we go. And almond flour, it is a little bit more expensive than an all-purpose flour. However, there's a lot more nutrients in an almond flour than there are in all-purpose flour. So that's why you'll see in a lot of my recipes, I try to cook with almond flour or flaxseed, just different things, different flour options, just to up your nutrient density when possible. I have not played around with this recipe for substituting an all-purpose flour. So if you're interested, you can definitely try it and experiment, but it's likely that the measurements will be very different. So if you do decide to experiment, be open and just go with the flow, and maybe just have fun experimenting. So next I need 1 cup of flour. There we go. Then we need 3/4 cup of old-fashioned oats. So adding the oats adds really great texture, as well as just great fiber, a little bit more protein. And you'll see in this recipe and other recipes that we've done in the past few months, I like to still include forms of sugar. We're going to use maple syrup today. And of course, we're making a dessert. So as I talk about nutrition and healthy eating, it really is a lot about moderation, choosing quality ingredients, and then proper portion control. Next, we're going to add 1/2 cup of ground flaxseed. So ground flaxseed is high in omega-3 fatty acids, which really lowers your inflammation. There's omega-6 fatty acids, which are your unhealthy omega acids, and those are going to be found in a lot of processed food. So if you buy packaged food, cereals, baked goods, chips, those are going to be higher in omega-6 fatty acids, while flaxseed, salmon, those are going to be high in omega-3 fatty acids. So those are your healthier fatty acids. And what's really cool is that omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, they work on kind of a teeter-totter. So if your omega-6 fatty acids are really high, but you up your consumption of omega-3 fatty acids, it actually drives down your omega-6 fatty acids, which is awesome for your health, because omega-6 fatty acids drive inflammation, which is not good for your overall health. But omega-3 lowers inflammation, which is awesome. So don't feel like all bets are lost. When it comes to healthy eating, every day, every meal, it all counts, it all adds up, and it's worth changing little by little. So don't ever feel like it's too much. Just do what you can when you can. So we're going to do 1/2 cup of ground flaxseed. Also, did you know that in order for your body to absorb those omega-3 fatty acids, the flaxseed has to be ground? If it's not ground, your body will just pass it as insoluble fiber. So it won't even be able to pull it apart and digest it. It just passes through without absorbing that nutrients. So if you're looking to absorb those omega-3 fatty acids, make sure that you're purchasing ground flax or you're grinding your own. I'm seeing a lot these days in these like 5-grain or 5-seed breads, the whole flaxseed, which is great. It's going to just count as insoluble fiber, which is good for you, but it doesn't have as much nutrient benefit as a ground flaxseed because of the omega-3 fatty acids. So if it's just the whole seed, we're not absorbing all of the nutrients possible. Just good to know, fun facts. Then we're going to add a 1/2 cup of butter. And I went ahead and melted it. I'm going to use a fork actually and get this dry mix put together. And I'm going to pause on the butter and add the rest of my dry mix here. I'm going to add my salt. So I need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Then 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. And that cinnamon, it just adds like a little bit, just that cozy, yummy, sweeter flavor without having to add more sugar. Then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And then I recommend just using a grade A maple syrup. Aunt Jemima is mostly corn syrup. So just when you're buying your syrup, make sure you read the ingredients. It should just read 100% maple syrup or just ingredient maple syrup. It should not have corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, none of that should be in it. Next, we're going to do our vanilla extract. So I need a 1/2 teaspoon. A little dab will do ya. And then we'll go ahead and add our butter. So I'll use my fork to kind of work it around. It'll become like a pretty good crumbly texture. And like I said, it's going to work as our pie crust and our crumble topping. That looks fantastic. So that's what we're looking for, kind of like a loose crumble here. We want, all of it to be nicely combined. Great. Okay, next we're then going to take, we have a 9x9 pan, and I went ahead and I lined it with parchment paper. The big trick with getting your parchment paper to perfectly fit in your square is cutting the corners. It's curling up on me, but cutting the corners of the parchment paper so that it perfectly slides in to our 9x9. I don't know about you, but for so long I was just jamming the parchment paper in and like it was folding over each other and making a huge mess. Cutting the corners is the trick and where it's at. So I hope that I enlightened you. Or maybe you already knew. Maybe I was like the last one here, last one to the party. Okay, so I'm going to take 1/2 of this crumble mixture, just roughly. You can weigh it if you want or measure it if you want, but eyeballing it works perfectly as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and spread it out, and I'm going to press it to the bottom of the pan. Take a little bit more, and that'll work as our crust. So just evenly spread it out and then evenly press it down. And it'll all kind of hold together really nicely and have a really great texture here. All right, we're going to bake this crust at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes. So check that out, looks good. Let's pop it in the oven. We'll go 10 minutes. Great. I'll go ahead and wash my hands. We're going to go ahead and chop up our strawberries and make the strawberry filling. Let's go ahead and make our strawberry filling for our strawberry crumble bars. So we have these beautiful strawberries. They look so good and sweet. What I'm going to do is remove the stem and we're going to just chop them up. So they really don't have to be perfect, but kind of just a smaller chop is great. These strawberries smell so sweet and good, and you can tell by the color, that deep red that they have, that they are going to be so good. And this is 1 package of strawberries, so it's about 1 pound. Now that we have these awesome strawberries chopped up, I'm going to go ahead and put them right into our sauce pot here. I'm going to slide them off of my cutting board and into the sauce pot. And we're going to combine all of our filling ingredients just right into the sauce pot. I'm a big fan of less sturdy dishes, so it is helpful sometimes to pre-measure things and set everything out, and that's called mise en place, which is classically, as a chef, we're supposed to do. But when you're at home and you are just trying to save yourself from cleaning a bunch of dishes, don't be afraid to just really, read ahead in the recipe, make sure it's clear, but put everything into one container if you can and save yourself some extra time. Okay, so what we're going to do is add 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. I'm going to just kind of eyeball that here. So this is going to add a little bit more sweetness. And with the strawberries being in season, you'll find that they're going to have really great sweetness already. So you might not even have to add 3 tablespoons. You could add less, just depending on kind of your flavor and your preferences. Then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. So the cornstarch is going to, of course, thicken this mixture as it cooks, and it's going to just become kind of like nice syrupy, thick consistency that's so delicious. And then we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. You don't have to use almond extract here. You can use vanilla extract instead, whatever you have. The almond extract is kind of, to me, it's like this, the flavor is just really pronounced and delicious. And so it kind of takes that really yummy, sweet strawberry flavor and just ups it and supports it just a little bit more. So it really brings it to life. So just a tiny bit will go. We'll do it. And then we need 1 orange, believe it or not. Again, it's another supporting character of the recipe. Oh, actually, it's over here. So that bright orange flavor pairs really well with the strawberry, the sweetness of the strawberry. So I like to add just some of the zest of this orange. So what I'm using is a microplane here up against my sauce pot, and then rotating my orange over the microplane. And you'll notice I'm just rotating it just until it gets to that white portion of the orange peel, because that portion is pretty bitter. So we want to avoid that. We want the sweet part, which is that bright orange. And so that goes the same when it comes to working with like a lemon or a lime. If you're looking for the zest, just rotate it right before you get to that white portion of the citrus. Great. So I'm going to use the whole orange. I've zested it, and then now I'm going to go ahead and juice the whole orange. And I'm just gonna squeeze it right over. So it's gonna add just a little bit more juice. Oh, and sweetness. I just dropped like a good chunk of orange in there, which I feel like, let it be. That's gonna be good. Yum, great. Trash this, and let's get the strawberry crumble on the stovetop, and it'll get all syrupy and delicious. I'm gonna wash my hands. And our crust is ready. Oh, it smells really good. Surprise, surprise. So that's what we're looking for. It's kind of like a pre-bake, because we are adding, once the strawberry filling is cooked all the way through, we're going to add it on top, plus the crumble topping, and that's gonna bake again. So this is just like a little bit, enough to kind of get it to set, so that the strawberry filling doesn't just like soak the crust. It kind of makes itself know that it's separate from what's happening. But that looks really, really great. So we'll set that aside. We'll let that cool while we're making our filling. So I'm going to put this on the stove top. Grab a spatula. We're going on about medium-high heat, or a medium-ish heat. I wouldn't really go much hot to the high end. And we're going to cook for about 3 to 5 minutes, or until it's simmering and it's slightly thickened up. All right, so our strawberry crumble filling is cooking on the stovetop. It's looking so good. The juice from the oranges and the juice from the strawberries kind of coming out as it's warming up, and that cornstarch is going to thicken that juice up and bind it all together and make a really nice, thick viscosity for this filling. It's going to look really great. So I'm going to keep my eye on it, but as we're letting that cook for a few more minutes, we're going to start our last recipe, which is our Greek salsa. So this salsa is going to pair with our Greek pork tenderloin. And it is just a nice play on salsa. We're just bringing those Mediterranean flavors to life in a salsa form. So what we're going to do is we're going to dice our cucumber, all of our vegetables, combine them, add some lemon juice, some olive oil, and some salt and pepper with some fresh mint. And it is just bright and perfect for these warmer days that we're headed into. So I have an English cucumber here. I'm going to cut the top and the bottom off. And then I'm going to break it down to a size that is comfortable for my knife, really. I like to break down whatever vegetable or fruit, cut it to a size that is smaller than my blade. So if I can hear our filling. So if I am cutting this whole cucumber, I just find that I'm a little bit less in control. So breaking it down to a smaller size makes it a little bit safer and a little bit more efficient. Let's check our strawberry filling. Ooh, this looks good. It happens really quickly. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Just honestly, maybe 30 more seconds or a minute. I'm gonna let it do a little bit longer. Turn it down. I can smell the almond extract and the orange. It's so good. So with the cucumber for our Greek salsa, I'm going to then cut it into planks. So here we are, great little planks. And then cut that into like a julienne or to a strip, just like we did our bell pepper earlier, and then realign it and cut it into a dice. And so I'm gonna work my way through this cucumber doing the same technique. Awesome, look at this. Okay, I need to show you guys so you can see, you get a good angle. So it's just this like nice, it's nice and toasty right now, but you can just see that glaze on it. It's really glossy, and that's really from that cornstarch, and it thickens it right up. That happens so quickly. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so then I'll go ahead and I'm gonna pause on our Greek salsa. I'm all over the place, you guys. I'm gonna pause on our Greek salsa so that we can get these strawberry crumble bars in the oven. So I have my crust over here that we just took out of the oven. And I'm going to push this out of the way so make sure you guys can see everything. And I'll just drop our filling on top of the crust and make sure you get all of the awesome juices here. Scrape that sauce pot, get everything out. It's so good. And we'll just spread it out evenly. Great. And like I said, this recipe is really great with blueberries, blackberries, any berries. I feel like figs would be really great too, what's there in season, or cherries. Once, you know, of course you'd have to pick the cherries, which is a little bit tedious, but oh my gosh, it'd be so great. Okay, so that's what, I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like. Just evenly spread. And then I'm going to take the remaining of our crust and use it as our crumble topping. So I'm just going to kind of break it up roughly with my hands, and it's a really naturally great crumble consistency. So I'll just crumble it right on top. And just evenly spread it. Great, that looks so good. There we go. All right, let me lift this up so you guys can see this as well. So how it's just nicely spread out on top, lightly crumbled. And I'm going to pop this in the oven at 350 degrees, and it's going to cook for about 30 to 35 minutes. So just until the strawberry filling is kind of bubbling up, the crust is going to look just cooked and a little bit, almost like slightly caramelized, slightly brown. And that's how you know it's perfectly cooked and ready to be taken out. So let's pop it in the oven. I'll set my timer for 30 minutes. I'll keep my eye on it. I always like to set my timer for the lower end just to make sure that nothing crazy has happened in the oven, because you can always add time, but you cannot take the time back. So keep that in mind as you're baking. Okay, back to our Greek salsa. We're prepping all of our vegetables for our Greek salsa. I'm gonna take everything out of this bowl so I can put my chopped goods into the bowl. So I have a cucumber here. I'm going to do a whole cucumber. It calls for 2 cups, and I figured two cups is about 1 whole cucumber. This recipe, I do have measurements. So the Roma tomato, the pepper, it gives you measurements of 2 cups or half a cup. And really just, you can use the whole bell pepper, the whole cucumber, because I hate to waste food. And it's just so much more cost effective if you can use the whole thing. Because I don't know about you guys, but I can have half a bell pepper in my refrigerator and never think to use it. Like I'll just go and grab a whole bell pepper, and it's such a bummer. I hate wasting. So just throw the whole thing in. Cucumbers are also a delicious spring produce. So again, they're going to just be higher in nutrient value. And they're going to be usually a little bit more on sale. You're going to find that they're on sale. All right, we're going to use Roma tomatoes. It calls for 2 cups. I just purchased 4, and I'm calling that good. I'm going to actually remove the seeds. This is personal preference. Some people are outraged when they see me remove the seeds. Usually the tomato lovers, and especially the gardeners. So you can of course leave the seeds in. I remove them just because I like more of a consistent texture. You know, if you leave the seeds in, some of it's just a little bit more liquidy than the other, so it's just preference.
And again, I cut those into planks and then into these little strips, and I'll realign it and cut it into a dice.
We have 4 Roma tomatoes here that I went ahead and diced. Now I'm going to do red onions, so I need about half of a cup of a red onion. This is the situation, and this is a scenario in which I would not recommend adding the entire red onion. So probably just a fourth of it is going to be all that we need. But what I do recommend, so that you don't waste the rest of your red onion, is go ahead and dice the entire red onion. Put what you need into your Greek salsa and then reserve the rest in your refrigerator. You will find that you're far more likely to use that red onion once it's chopped, because it can easily go on top of your pizza or in your stir fry or your scrambled eggs. You'll find a home for it way easier because it's already chopped. That's what I try to do with most of any vegetable if I can't use the whole thing. Because again, we don't want to waste it. We're going to do 1 whole bell pepper, so it calls for 1 cup. And again, in this scenario, I would just go ahead and use the whole bell pepper. No need to reserve any or use 1 1/2. That would be silly. So I like to square off my bell pepper, cut the top and the bottom, and then remove the stem and then the middle portion. Just again to try to minimize waste as much as possible.
And I'll run my knife through it and make a nice small dice.
Great. Then we're going to go ahead and add a lemon. We're going to juice it. I have a great little gadget for that. So I'll take half of my lemon and squeeze it there right on top. And so this just really, this lemon is really juicy. It's getting everywhere. This lemon is really going to brighten up this salsa. I love this little handheld juicer. I'm really not a huge gadget person because I don't like a lot of things in my kitchen because it just kind of slows me down in my opinion, but it has really come in handy, I will admit. Lastly, we're going to chop up some fresh mint. And this part, I'm gonna say, it is optional. The mint is really fun, it brightens it up, it sticks in that It keeps the salsa in that Greek flavor profile. However, if you don't want to chop it up, if you don't feel like purchasing it, skip it. It's going to be good. It's so good even on its own. But I'm going to do the mint because I wanted to give you guys the option to include it, especially if you have an herb garden and you do grow mint. It's a really great way to use mint. And I've talked about this before, but fresh herbs are such a great way to get those leafy vegetables in, those leafy greens. They are high in micronutrients, which is so good for you. And so we need about a tablespoon. It's not too much, but just enough to brighten it up. So I'm going to run my knife through and mince it. It just smells so bright and fresh and makes me so excited for the spring. So good. All right, then we'll go ahead and add our salt and pepper. And so again, the salt is just gonna kind of lift the flavors that are already occurring. The ground black pepper. And some olive oil. So I need about a tablespoon of olive oil. It's going to just kind of add a little bit of sauce to it. There's already some great juice happening from the cucumbers and the tomatoes and the pepper, the lemon juice, the olive oil. Yum. I love this so much because look at how pretty it is when it gets tossed together. It really does just look like, it's just so pretty and bright and bringing all those awesome spring flavors to life. So this I like to put on top of the Greek pulled pork. And today we're going to build a gyro. So I'm gonna have some naan. I'll put the Greek pulled pork, the salsa on top, some tzatziki, some feta, so good. But this is also really great. Like again, I mentioned you could just put this pulled pork on a salad and you could put the salsa on top of a bed of lettuce and toss it with like an herbed vinaigrette or toss it with some tzatziki or hummus and just make yourself like a nice, really flavorful Greek salad. So lots of different options. This also makes a really large batch. I would not recommend freezing the salsa because once you thaw it, a lot of the juice from the cucumber will come out and just it's not the same great texture. So this is going to last in your refrigerator for about 3 to 5 days, depending on the state of the produce at which you chopped it. So you could of course make a smaller batch if you don't see yourself using all of it, or hand it over to friends. They're gonna love it as well. All right, our Instant Pot beeped. So what we're going to do, I turn the keep warm function off and then release the valve. So it's going to start releasing the steam because it's releasing all of that pressure. So it's going to take about 10-15 minutes more to release all the pressure until we can open the lid. All right, our Greek pulled pork is done. It's looking so good. I'm going to open my Instant Pot. All of the pressure has been released. It is still very, very hot in there, but this amount of time, so even in your slow cooker or your pressure cooker, this pork should be nice and tender so that you can just break it down. I'm going to use my tongs and just kind of work it out a little bit, and it's going to just shred and be so tender and so good. So I'm going to mix it all up. It's looking awesome. So this pork tenderloin will really it's so tender at this point. It should crumble pretty easily just with the squeeze of the tongs. And it will break up really nicely. I'm going to lift it up here just so you guys can kind of see what's happening without burning myself. It just looks so awesome. Here, let me just lift it up. But it's nice and juicy and tender and it smells so great. Okay, so let me put this to the side and let's go ahead and build our gyro. So we made Greek pulled pork, and the end result, I wanted to use our Greek salsa and and make delicious gyros. Something different. So what I have here, just some mini naan bread. So good. I like to just pop it in the toaster and warm it up so it just becomes so buttery and soft and slightly toasted. It's so great. Then we'll pop our pork right on it. Check this pork out. Like, look how tender and juicy that is. And it's just like the seasoning on it. You can see those herbs. It just looks so great. Then we'll go ahead and pop our, I'm gonna put our tzatziki first because it's going to help kind of hold that salsa on. Then we're going to use our Greek salsa that we made. Yum. And we'll finish it with a little bit of feta, crumbled feta. Look at that plate, you guys. That's so good. I love just something different, right? We're constantly in the same cycle probably with our recipes. And this recipe is going to take you out of that rut. We've got our Greek pulled pork with Greek salsa. The flavors are insane. It's cost effective. So this, for 4 servings, it's $15.29 total to make 4 servings of this. So this is 1 serving, these 2. This makes 4 plates for a little over $15. That is a steal of a deal for something so good for you and so flavorful. I hope you guys really love this dish. I'm excited to dig into it tonight. Let's check in our oven. Our strawberry crumble bars should be done. Ooh. Oh my gosh, they look so good. Check out those crumble bars. You can see, woo, don't want to drop it. You can see they're getting nice and juicy. The strawberry juice is coming through. The crust is slightly brown and golden. It's gorgeous. So now we're just going to let it cool. And it's so good to serve with some vanilla bean ice cream. Chop this into 16 bars, put some ice cream on top. So good. And share this with your family, your friends, your neighbors. You all, thank you so much for watching. I hope that, again, you feel inspired, you learned something, or you were just entertained. Hopefully I didn't have too many bloopers. If you aren't already, make sure that you turn on your Care Team Plus notifications on Facebook, follow the Care Team Plus page, and if you loved this video or any of these recipes, please do us a favor and share them with your friends and family. Thank you so much. Have a great week.